that's what he does so good. Is as good as he is, and as good as his stuff is, he's trying to get better each and every day. He doesn't think he's already made it, and he wants to get better every time out, and that's what separates him.
And when you are catching, is it true you wear a Superman shirt under your jersey?
Captain America.
Captain America. Close. Give us a little rundown on what it's like to catch Verlander.
You know, it's funny, when I was drafted, my college catching coach, he and I are really close. He told me, when you go to spring training, he said, try and catch all the older guys. I said, yeah, right, those guys are good. And he said, no, go catch the Verlanders, go catch the Scherzers, go catch the Sanchez's. It'll be like sitting in a rocking chair. And it really is. Those guys know exactly what they're doing. They don't miss their spots. And you go catch a young guy in spring training, and it's 99 over your head, 99 in the dirt, and they're just, you know, letting it loose. Whereas a guy like Verlander, it really is like sitting in a rocking chair. He makes it easy at times, and I just try and don't make him look bad, make sure he looks good.
Okay, Jim, I got to ask you what it was like to work with the great Ernie Harwell.
Well, and of course it was an honor. I remember I grew up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania before we moved to Hershey, and I didn't know at the time, but Ernie was broadcasting Baltimore games. And Harrisburg's like 60 miles from Baltimore, so that was really our team. So I heard him as an 11, 12-year-old. Then I got traded to the Tigers, and he did broadcast my games. And some of you might remember this, but you know, in those days, if you got a $25 certificate, it was big time. And we'd all hang around Ernie because he handed out those Sibley shoe certificates for $25 to get you a couple pair of shoes in those days. And you know, we became friends then. And then as a broadcaster, there's nobody like him. He didn't like doing television. We did television for a little bit, and I'll tell you one story. And I know we're in a church, but forgive me for it, okay? But Ernie, thank you. Ernie, you know, you would think Ernie never swore. He didn't, you know, he was really real straight and all that. He had a great personality. And we were doing television, he would, I'd have to help with his necktie, and he would wear this French beret. And he'd say, Jim, do I look like a French porno director or what? And that was Ernie, you know. And we did television, which he hated, and went into radio together, and I was his last on-air broadcast partner, and proud of it. But my biggest thrill was just to be with him. And the main thing he taught me was, it's the game. It's the game. It's not the broadcaster, it's the game. And he said, you know, when you get to the ballpark, I know some days you don't feel good, but you gotta remember, you're on stage. When you get in your private parking spot out there, the guards are out there. You may not feel good, but you put that smile on. You let them know that you're okay. You might be sick, you might be hurting. And that was a great lesson for me because I've had a few health issues, as some of you know. And I always went down there, got out of my car with a smile on my face, really because of Ernie Harwell. It meant a lot to me.
Jim, I know you just don't walk into the booth and start broadcasting. What kind of preparation goes into a broadcast for you to do such a great job?
I appreciate that. You know, there is a lot you can do, but I'm not one of these guys that needs the all these isometrics or what they call the analytics and all that stuff. I believe in a little bit of those, but I also believe in the eyeballs because I think my eyes are very good. I think I see things that they don't see, and you know, a hitter leaning over in a certain situation, moving closer to the plate. So for me, even though I want to know what the pitcher throws, that's number one. And certain key hitters on the other team, which I already know. And I've been around long enough now to know most of the pitchers and what they throw. And people will say, well, how did you know that was a cutter? Well, a lot of times, I know what the pitcher throws and how the catcher catches the ball. Those two things, for me, are very simple. And when there's a home run hit, I have to be quiet because I know right away it's a home run. And I used to go, wow, and Dickerson wasn't sure it was out. So I tried to stop that, you know. And because I know instantly, when Dave hits one like he hit one in Minnesota, it's still going in right center field up there in Minnesota. And Dan waited until it bounced back. Well, it's a home run, you know, and all that. But I know right away. I know right away what it is. And my preparation is simple, and just knowing what the other pitcher throws, their bullpen and so forth, and you know, I know all the hitters. I could help James a little bit, and I'm just kidding. But I do know all the hitters from experience and so forth. So for me, I do it by rote. I mean, it's just a system I have, unless I'm interrupted by Jerry or Art. You know, I get my stuff done in a hurry. Where's Art?
He's a, James, hey, what about your preparation for a game? What do you have to go through?
So honestly, it starts the day before a series. Whether we're traveling or whatever it may be, I'll go over some scouting reports and I figure out a game plan of how we're going to attack every hitter on the opposing team. And that'll be the day before the series. And then the day of the first game in the series, I'll go in and I'll watch video. And I'll compare my notes from what the numbers say to what my eyes are telling me. You know, just like Jim said, there's so many numbers in today's game, it's unreal. But at the end of the day, you have to trust your eyes more than anything. So a perfect example would be, you know, on the number sheet it says that the guy doesn't hit changeups well, and then I go watch the film, and he watched him taking swings against changeups, and it's a line out to the third baseman, fly out to the wall, fly out, you know, down in the gap. So okay, maybe he does hit changeups well, he's just running some bad luck. So it's just kind of that cat and mouse game, the chess game of what pitches and what certain situation you're going to call. And that's the mental side of the defensive part of the game. Offensively, you know, there's a lot of work that goes on in the cage before the game, a lot different than when Mr. Price played. I mean, there's guys that I don't know how their hands don't fall off the amount of swings that they take before a game. Wear themselves out in the cage to get ready, but you know, physically you have to make sure you take care of your body. There's a lot that goes into, you know, the weight room and stretching and whatnot, just to get your body ready to play, you know, 162 games.
Hey, along those same lines, what is your preparation in the off season? How much working out do you do in your preparation when you're not playing before you get to spring training?
Again, this is different than Mr. Price era, but you know, I think you mentioned something about you had a job in the off season. You don't get a job in the off season if you want to be successful. It's a year-round training. Once the season's over, I'll take about two weeks off, and then I'll get back into you know, my workout routine. But in the prime of my off season, I'm working out 6 days a week. I take Sundays off. It's the Lord's Day. I rest on the Lord's Day. But I'm lifting 3 or 4 times a week, and the other days I'm stretching, mobility, running, whatever it may be to keep my body in shape.
Hey, Jim, Mickey Mantle, probably one of the greatest players I ever saw. Can you tell us that story about Denny McClain, yourself, and Mickey Mantle with that home run in Tiger Stadium?
Well, we'd already clinched the pennant, and Denny was going for win number 31. I had caught him about 18 of those wins. So I was catching him in the game. We already clinched the pennant. We were rained out the next day, and then we were playing the Yankees, beat their final trip to Tiger Stadium for Mickey Mantle. So when Mickey came up late in the game, I told the umpire, let's give Mickey center stage. And we walked out towards the mound, standing ovation for the Mick. And McClain said, hey, Jimmy, let's let him hit one. And well, first thought would be, you're nuts, but then again, he was nuts. So it was sad, but I said, really? He said, let's let him hit one. I said, that's a great idea. I said, I'll find out what he wants. I went behind the plate, and Mickey had this thing when he bat left-handed, he'd put his bat down, his head down. When he did that, I said, Mick, we want you to hit a home run. And he went, what? I said, we'd like you to hit a home run. Go look at that. And then I said this to him, look at that big fat head out there on the mound, which was McClain. McClain's going like this. So he looks back at me and says, all right, high and tight, mediocre cheese. Now, Ernie said it took about 4 pitches for him to hit the home run. I actually have pictures of it. But he did hit a home run high and tight in the upper deck, and he's going around the bases, came by home plate, and he thanked me. And I never talked about it because I didn't want to belittle the home run until he mentioned it. And the next batter was old first baseman, remember who it was? Yeah, for the Yankees. I can't remember his name, but No. And he came up and he said, Jim, you're going to give me a home run? No, I said, we're going to hit you right in the butt. That's what we're going to do. So that's the true story. Ernie Harwell always thought that was a big part of Tiger lore. And I do have pictures. We've had it at the fantasy camp and everything where I'm set up high and tight. And there's the Mick, waiting for the ball. And he hit it up in the upper deck. And that's the way it went.
Hey, what? Great story. Why'd you pick number 12?
I picked number 12 because Bill Freehand was number 11. I just thought that was great. I had great respect for Bill, a 10-year All-Star, Billy, and I had great respect for Billy, and I just thought that would be great. And, Billy's having a tough time now, I think most of you know. He lives up north, so your prayers would be important for him. And up until last year, he could listen to the games, and Patty would let me know, because I try to mention his name on the air. And when I did, he would say, Jimmy talked about me, Jimmy talked about me. But he can't even do that anymore. So it's Alzheimer's that he has. And it's really sad, but great player, great player.
James, you have, a cannon back there. You had a great arm, and you can throw from your knees better than anybody I ever saw. How do you learn to do that, and what's the system that you go through to throw out runners so often?
Well, there's two things that really are out of my control. One is God bless me with a good arm. I've done a lot to train it, but ultimately you're either born with it or you're not, and that's something that God blessed me with. And the second thing is pitchers giving me a chance. Pitchers have done a really good job this year of holding runners. There's something called a pop time for a catcher, which is from the time it hits the catcher's glove to the time it hits the second baseman or the shortstop's glove. But there's also a pitcher's time to the plate. And I tell my pitchers, if you can get me the ball in less than 1.4 seconds, we've got a shot. And our pitchers have done an extremely good job this year of doing that. And really, a lot of the credit goes to them. I take a lot of pride in my defense, and honestly, throwing out runners is probably my favorite thing to do in the game, even more so than hitting a home run.
Who's the hardest pitcher you have to catch on our staff?
Hardest pitcher to catch. Well, like I was saying earlier, the older guys that a lot of people would think that Cy Young winners who got really good stuff are hard to catch, but really they're a little bit easier. Some of the younger guys are tough. A guy like Daniel Norris, he's tough. He's got really, really good stuff, but he's still really young in his development. And it's when you're catching a guy like Verlander who's been around, it's you're just playing the chess game. What pitch here? What are we going to do? How are we going to set guys up? When you're catching a young guy like Norris, it's not only that, but you also have to control his temperament. You have to, make sure he's keeping his emotions in line. I use the phrase babysitter. That's ultimately what you are. You've got to, the pitchers are your babies, and you got to go out and whatever it takes. Some guys you got to go out and kick in the rear end and make them upset to succeed, and other guys you have to go, pat on the backside and tell them how good they are doing, no matter what the situation is.
Hey Jim, along the same lines, Mickey Lolich threw a hard fastball. What was it like to catch him, and what other pitchers were difficult to catch?
Well, the great Mickey Lolich had great stuff. He was timed 96, 98, with his heater. He threw a vicious cutter. And he had Billy and I know this sounds strange, but he would pitch the knees and shoulders. And he would have Billy and I split the outside part of the plate. So right-hander, split the outside part of the plate with our body. And he had a great cutter down and into right-hander. Now, we're on high alert. We're sitting out there on high alert when we call a cutter. So he's trying to go down and in. So that made it very tough to catch him. And he didn't throw any off-speed pitches hardly at all. And he had a vicious slider also that he loved to bounce up and hit me in the neck with. It was really great. Where I'm coming from. And he would get a smile on his face and all that stuff. Remember one time I was going out the mound, he gave up a couple hits. And the old days were a little different, and I had that mound we had, I'd walk up the mound, And I started to say something. He says, "What are you doing there? Get back where you belong," which I did. I put my head down, went back behind the plate, and he struck out the next batter. But he was tough to catch, great guy, and I think one of the true arms, a great arm for the game of baseball.
Well, we're getting down to the end here, but without, I want to make sure before we leave that I ask both you guys, what advice would you give to young kids that want to be a professional baseball player?
The biggest thing that I talk to young kids about is putting down the video games. When I was a kid, my parents did not let me play video games. I know that video games were kind of just coming out when I was a kid, and now the graphics are way better, and now you've got iPads and iPhones and all that good stuff, but I wasn't allowed to do any of that. When I got home from school, it was homework, and then as soon as I could finish my homework, I went outside and I played. And that's the biggest thing for me to tell kids is, you hear work hard and do this and do that, but ultimately, as a kid, you got to go outside and play. Your arm doesn't get stronger by staying inside and playing your favorite player on a video game. Your arm gets stronger by going outside and playing catch, going outside and throwing the ball up against a wall. When my neighborhood friends weren't around, I literally would go out and I'd tape a square on the wall, and I'd pretend to be Randy Johnson or Roger Clemens, or I would pretend to be Derek Jeter, and I'd throw the ball off the wall and field a ground ball and throw it to the first baseman. I literally would go out and I would play, and that's my biggest piece of advice. And if you can't go play baseball, go play basketball, go play football, go do something athletically that keeps you playing.
Well, I'll tell you that outside of the video games, which we didn't have, we had black and white TV, the screen was about that big. But, I remember what James said. I played football, basketball, and baseball for like 4 straight years, never took a day off. Where I went to high school, football was king, in Pennsylvania. And what he said is so true. I remember my mom would actually throw batting practice to me, my mother. My dad was at work. And then there were times when we'd still be playing, my mother would be screaming, "Get in here for dinner." And I remember putting a square on the wall, like James said, we played wiffle ball with my older brother, who I always beat. And but we were always doing something. I remember playing catch with my dad, and it got to the point where he couldn't see real good because my stuff got a lot better the older I got. But I was always throwing, and playing all sports. And James hit the nail on the head. I mention one thing if I could, not to interrupt anything, but when we had our big event, Dancing with the All-Stars last year, some of you were there, and James and Jessica, his wife, were there. And that kind of started when James and I talked a little bit, that he and his wife would like to be involved with Jack's Place, and it touched my heart. I talked to my wife about it, and we talked to James and Jessica about being our ambassador, and he is our ambassador, and what a great ambassador, a class act, James McCann.
Okay, I think that about wraps it up with the questions. Great job, guys. Thank you again. I know from my standpoint, I love doing it. I got a few more I could throw out your way, but it's time for us to get, I think, to is it the raffle we do next? Why don't you?
Okay, what we're going to do now, everybody, is we're going to transition into the photo autograph session of the program. Well, actually, we'll have James and Jim head over there and sit behind the table, and then we can get in line to get your autograph and pictures with both of them.
Excuse me a second, where are the tip-ins? Oh, here are your tickets. The top half is yours. We're going to do the raffle first, we decided. Because if you win the jersey, these 2 jerseys up here are part of the raffle, okay? And if you win them, you can then get them autographed. So fill out the top of your ticket. There are more tickets, more raffle tickets available for $1.
That's a deal. We're going to line up. They gave you. If they want to put them on, then they'll be worn. Yeah. They'll be gaining. That way they'll be $500. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They just take it up and have them side on the brick. Now that I've ordered everybody around, I think it's time, to wear the jersey. What else do we want?
I like the jersey.
Yeah, we're gonna have them wear them.
Oh,
That way they're game worn. Close like we get it.
what's Christy Columbus is what they tell me when he smokes. I don't know. There's only one Christy that I know at home, one Christy that I ever saw. He's the one who discovered the fadeaway ball, and he pitches for Muggsy McGraw. Baseball, baseball, painted wonderful face. When the mighty Christy Columbus found the mighty that got from the Astros, don't carry his name. Oh my
Wow, I love her. This is Christy Chen. Oh, I know. Good job. But when it's big, she used to be at West. Yeah, but I think she's supposed to work in the rock crowd. She's saying, look at that. And now it's all hard. She's just, she had a special on TV.
You should have Judy.
She's just voiceless. She's got this voice. You know, but she's on this week. She's kind of crazy.
Can we hear it? Our first item for raffle are 4 tickets to the Tiger game, Tigers versus Cleveland Indians, Tuesday, September 27th. Who's choosing? And the winner is Evan McIntyre. Oh!
Oh, look at that.
One where I'm actually standing.
I thought I was going to those.
I got one standing.
6'12".
I bought a couple more.
Guys that was in the law, Nate Roberts.
The young kid that's got a McCann shirt, that's cute.
Yeah. But you're not together. You know, I'd rather get you together, you know, yeah. Yeah. Got a really nice one.
Raffle item number 2 is
How does this work?
Detroit Tiger Gym.